Hello and welcome to another video from the Silver Citizen. Remember, if you like what you see, hit the like, hit the subscribe, hit the bell so you never miss a video. Alright, let's get into it. This is about the game that was played at weekend. 3-1 victory against Brighton, which moved us at the time within a point of Arsenal. And Arsenal dropped points yesterday and now lead by 2 points in front. I've looked at the fixtures. The 3 fixtures we played before the World Cup, we play each one of them before Arsenal play, so because of that draw now, Arsenal could very well, and I think they will, in my personal opinion, go into each of their next 3 games second. Whether they leave the pitch in second place remains to be seen. They've got Chelsea, which is going to be a tough one at Stamford Bridge. Obviously, we've got Leicester away, we've got Fulham at home and Brentford at home, and yeah, well, Leicester are showing some signs recently, but I think we'll beat them. The one game I look at with Arsenal, I think to myself, Wilder, is Chelsea away. I think they'll win the other 2 games, but then again, I thought they'd beat Southampton. Not always going to be right, eh? But because of that, they could very well possibly go into their next 3 league games in second place. Like I said, whether they remain in second place or not remains to be seen. But anyway, this is about the Brighton game, which City won 3-1. Now, I've watched a couple of my old videos and keep on losing track of time, so made some notes on this one. As I'm getting old, I need reading glasses. Right. First off, I'm going to talk about the penalty claims. The first one was Grealish. The first one I'm going to talk about, which was Grealish, which for me is the clearest one of saying no. Great closing down by Grealish. Won the ball. Ran at the defenders. Great 1-2 with Haaland. And he went to volley it with his left foot. Now, if he would have connected and it had gone in, it would have been a fantastic goal. But as the defender's putting his foot up to block whatever shot Grealish is going to win, Grealish misses the ball and boots the underside of the defender's foot. Never a penalty. I mean, Grealish went down here because he kicked the underside of the foot, and it's painful if you boot someone's studs. Grealish probably thinks it's a foul because the defender didn't get anything on the ball and he felt the contact. But I think if he's honest with himself and he watches it back, he'll see why it wasn't given. I don't think it was a penalty. And I haven't really spoken to anyone that has seen it and does believe it was a penalty. So, correct decision by the referee. Then Haaland. The Haaland one, for me, is a penalty. Cancelo had the ball. Absolutely immense movement by Grealish. And this is the type of stuff that goes unnoticed. This is the type of stuff that people don't see. But Grealish, whether he was going to get a short pass or not, or whatever, he moved out of the way, leaving a big, massive gap. Intelligence. Absolutely. The defender sees it, and because he sees Grealish moving out of the way, the defender moves. Now, as soon as the defender moves, De Bruyne is on his foot. So, that says to me this is something that's been worked on in training. The genius of Pep and his coaches, this is something that's worked on in training, that if the defender doesn't go with Grealish, probably pass it to Grealish because he's going to have time to turn around and try and create something. If the defender does go with Grealish, there's a run. And it was almost as in cue. As soon as the defender started to close down Grealish, De Bruyne was on his foot, dragging the other defender that went with him away. Now De Bruyne puts the ball in. Haaland gets there first, and the goalkeeper, catches him with his foot. For me, that's a penalty. All day long, that was a penalty. I think if Haaland would have stayed on the floor like Grealish did, I think he probably might have swayed Craig Pawson to point to the spot. But he was honest. He got back up, didn't try milking it or rolling around, and asked the question. I can see why the referee didn't give it. Looking at his viewpoint, he did have a couple of players in between, and like Haaland getting straight back up. Goalie's unsure. Did he kick it and realise it was going out and go down and say, ref, So I could understand Craig Pawson not giving it because he didn't have a clear view. And penalties for me are one of those. If you're not convinced, you can't give it. And he had people in his viewpoint. He probably didn't get a great look at it. But VAR should have said something. If this is why we've got VAR, that for me was a clear and obvious mistake. But it wasn't given. So now we move on to the penalty that was given. Cancelo with the ball over the top, Bernardo running onto it. Was the penalty given for a push in the back? If so, then I agree it was a penalty. If the penalty was given for a tangle of legs, I'm not sure. And this is why it is an area for me, because if you were to say the Haaland one wasn't a penalty because he kicked it and he wasn't going to get to that ball, I think with or without contact with Bernardo Silva and the defender, the pace of the ball, I don't think Bernardo gets there. I honestly don't. I think it goes straight through to the keeper. That's what I mean. But anyway, I think with the foot, I think Bernardo initiated contact. I think Bernardo probably thought to himself in the space of a split second, I might not get to that ball. So he dangled his leg out and initiated contact. He knew there was going to be contact, and if the referee gave a penalty because there was contact, VAR is not going to overturn. So if it was for the legs, I'm not sure that was a clear and obvious mistake. Because like I said, I think Bernardo initiated the contact. Question then comes, was Bernardo put off balance by the push? Who knows? I personally, I don't think he was. Enough to put his foot out to initiate the contact. But I do think he was put off balance a little bit by the push. And like I said, if it was for the push, then I'm fully behind. I think it was a penalty. But anyway, whatever the case was, penalty was given and dispatched by Haaland. You obviously had a couple of minutes while all the Brighton players were moaning about it. Haaland put it on the spot probably about 12 times before he took 2 steps back, and he hit it that hard. It was with the side of his foot. Imagine if he puts his laces through it, but he hit it with that much venom that usually the goalie takes 1 step forward and then pushes himself off. Well, this goalie took 1 step forward and instead of pushing himself off, just fell to his knees because it was already in the net. I don't think Mahrez is getting anywhere near those penalties again. But that made it 2-0 because, 1 second. Yeah, that made it 2-0. Edison, we all know what he's like with his distribution, and this, he's done it more than once. It's no surprise. Hardly in a back left, ball comes back to him from a pass back. I think it might have been Bernardo that gave him the ball. Bump, puts his foot through it, and he bends. Going towards the Brighton defender, and then sort of just bends away from him and goes into Haaland's path. What the goalie was doing out, as far as he was, I have no idea. But I think it was a mistake by the keeper to come out of that 5, if I'm honest. Haaland gets it, the goalie's going to, if he gets close to the ball, the goalkeeper, he could take him out. And then he could be in a situation where he's getting a red card. As it turns out, he came out so far, he realised that he wasn't going to get the ball and sort of put the brakes on. And Haaland chested it past him, shoulder charge into their defender, and slotted it into an empty net. 1-0. Of course, it goes to VAR, but as a City fan, with the last couple of goals we've had ruled out, you wouldn't have been surprised. But the right call this time. Obviously, if we'd have been playing Liverpool, it would have been cancelled out. We all know this. But no, they came to the correct decision this time. Like I said, the penalty made it 2-0. Brighton did have quite a few chances in the first half. Not so much as bringing Edison into save after save after save. There was some good defending. There was some situations where their players weren't quite on the same wavelength. The final pass let them down a couple of times. But they had some good moments, and it made for a good game. End to end, there was some good attacking play from both teams. There was some good defensive play from both teams. I think the tactical and the technical knowledge in both teams made for a very entertaining game, in my opinion. In terms of games, probably the best one at the Etihad this year. In terms of performances from City, it wasn't, but in terms of games, it was a very entertaining game, end to end. Some good moments from both teams. And City went in the break 2-0 up. Like I said, I think it should have been more. I think we should have had a penalty for Haaland as well, which I think then would have given Haaland an hat-trick. Because obviously he's taking the penalties now that Mahrez has missed, so he took the first one. He buried that. And he took the second one. Buried that. I have no doubt. But it went in 2-0 half time. Comes out the second half. Starts pretty much the same as the first. And then Edison gets the ball and launches it with his arm. Throws it right into the path of De Bruyne. He's got oceans of space. Runs into it. Slips in Mahrez. Roll into Mahrez and you're thinking to yourself, 3-0. For me, it was a poor finish. It was right along the floor. I think he should have got some height on it, like Salah did with Edison last week, and he didn't. He sort of hit it along the floor. Memory serves, I think there was a defender running in behind the keeper, so even if it had gone under the keeper's legs, I think the defender would have cleared it. If you're getting a little bit of height on it, then it becomes a little bit awkward for the defender then, rather than just clearing a ball that's along the floor, than sort of trying to put your foot in the air and clear it. It could easily become a mess. But anyway, it didn't go that far. The goalkeeper got his foot on it eventually. Brighton got the ball, gave it to the keeper, and a big pump forward. Now, I've heard my dad say that Laporte should have headed it back to the keeper. And he probably could have, if I'm honest. He probably could have. But I think he didn't do because he was probably about 35-40 yards away from his goal. Watching it on the screen, you can't see Edison, so I don't know how close to his net Edison was at the time. But he had Danny Welbeck right there. Now, if he doesn't catch his header going back as well as he wants, which is a possibility, then Welbeck's running through one-on-one. And you're putting your team in danger. If you go to head it forward and you don't connect as well as you want, you're in a better position to defend that situation. That's the reason I don't think he went backwards. I think he went forward, that if he doesn't make as good a connection as he wants, he's still in the best possible position to defend the situation that arises. He got a decent header on it. I think Akanji probably could have done better. Now, I think Akanji, apart from the odd moments here and there, overall has been exceptional for us since he signed. But I think he had a few moments, and that was one of them. I think he should have done better. Should have done better later on as well, which I'll talk about when I get to that. But he should have done better. As it turned out, Brighton came forward. It came to Trossard from the edge of the box, smashed it into the net. Now, Edison has conceded quite a few goals this year, and personally speaking, I don't think he was to blame for any one of them. I think he's made some fantastic saves, and I can't actually. I've watched the goals back, brief highlights and stuff like that on the website, and there isn't a goal that we've conceded that I've looked at and thought he should have done better. Yes, goals are going to go in, but this one I do. As a goalkeeper when I was in school, I also played left wing, but I was also a goalkeeper, and I was good in goal. They used to call me Fabien Barkev because everyone was a United fan, and France had just won the World Cup and the European Championships when I was in college, so they called me Fabien Barkev. In high school, it was Peter Schirallen or Kevin Schmeichel. Most of them were United fans, so. But anyway, you can't get beat on your net. You look at the angle from behind the post, and I think he gave Trossard too much of a viewpoint. Now, when I'm coaching my kids and I'm coaching the goalkeeper and I'm giving goalkeeping things, I always get him to come out a little bit like Edison had. But get it that even though that side of the net, if you get it past you, the net's the same size. You haven't got a view. You give it so the only position they've got to shoot is in that far side. And if they bend it in and it goes in, congratulations, but it's criminal to get beat on your net. I don't think he should have been conceding that goal. As good of a strike as it was, and as powerful as it was, it's criminal to get beat on your net. Now, to be fair to him, he did do quite well, even though his positioning, in my opinion, was a little bit too far over to the left, and he should have been a bit more closer to his goal post. He got his hands down quite quick, and he was probably a second away from saving it, because as his hand's coming down, it hits the underside of his hand. A second later, he gets a full hand on it, and he's pushing it out for a corner. So, as much as his positioning could have been better, it was a decent recovery, just not good enough because there was too much power within the shot. But anyway, that brought it to 2-1. Now, 1 second. And then City became a bit under the cosh. A little bit under the cosh. Brighton got the noses up, they had some good attacks, came forward quite a bit. And it was all about being compact at that point for City. Because Brighton pinned us in quite a bit. I've written some things here. They were compact. There was a lot of defensive discipline. Brighton pinned them in. The determination, desire and devotion to get the 3 points got us through. And you could see that training against each other helped. Because a lot of the time you see City and they ping teams in and gets to the point where they clear it and they come straight back at them and they're going from left to right and all the rest of it. Brighton were doing that to us. And I think because, obviously we do the attacking and the defending in training, we used to defend in that situation. So when we came under the cosh and Brighton were pinning us in and Brighton doing all the rest of it, we've handled situations like that in training, playing defending against better players. There's no disrespect to Brighton, they've got some fantastic players. Ours are better. It's a simple fact. Ours are better than theirs. And it helps. But Brighton were always in the game. At that point they had some great chances. And then came the other part with Akanji. Overzealous, you could call it. But there was no need for him to do it. The ball was in Brighton's half. Akanji comes bursting forward to try and win an header. Misses the bounce, because it bounces and it goes over his head. He misses the bounce completely. And just leaves a big massive gap behind him for Trossard to run into. That was another mistake that I was talking about before. And then you've got City running back. And it was almost 2-2. Almost 2-2. Because Trossard came running in, and he was probably in the same kind of angle as Vinicius Jr. was last year for Real Madrid, when obviously Vinicius Jr. scored. And Fernandinho had done pretty much the same thing Akanji did, sold himself and left a big massive gap for Vinicius Jr. to run into, and Akanji did the same thing for Trossard. But now Edison redeemed himself for his mistake earlier on, which brought it back to 2-1. He redeemed himself with a fantastic leg save to keep City in the lead and keep it at 2-1. And although Sean Goater tried crediting Alisson with it, it was Edison. I think Alistair Mann really should have told Sean Goater at some point of the commentary, Alisson plays for Liverpool. Because he'd said it all game. It was a fantastic pass for Ireland from Alisson. Alisson's got that in his locker to put that pass in. It was a mistake there by Alisson, and Welbeck acted onto it. Great leg save by Alisson, to keep it at 2-1. Maybe we should have said to him, Alisson plays for Liverpool. I think he tried to insinuate this, with him keep on turning around saying, Ederson. He emphasised the word. It was a great save by Ederson. But Ederson, he's a good goalie. Ederson's under pressure. But it didn't cut on, and poor Sean kept on calling him Alisson. it was humorous, but yeah. And then just before we made it 3-1, we almost did. Got it here. Ball fell to Foden, who fought off his attacker, fought off his defender, and played it through to Kevin De Bruyne. Kevin De Bruyne puts a through ball for Haaland, who is inches away from an hat-trick, as Lewis Dunk got a slight touch which stopped it running through for Haaland and slowed the play down, and then got in front of Haaland to get a block on the shot, taking it out for a corner. Inches. As Dunk's running with Haaland, it's sort of like hits his foot, bounces up in the air, and like slows it down. So Haaland then has got to put the brakes on. Doesn't get that touch, and Haaland's swinging round with his left foot and firing at a goal. Whether Sanchez saves it or not, I don't know. But look, good play, whatever it is, it slowed it down. And then, like I said, got a block on it. It went out for a corner, and from the resulting corner, Laporte got an header on it. Just going wide. Probably about 5 or 6 inches, but just. That might have been before. 1 second, let me see. Yeah, that happened before Trossard. In my notes. It was after the Laporte header that Trossard had the shot. And not that long after, City got a free kick, foul on Foden. One of their substitutes that came on, Esteriante or something like that, dragged Foden back. We got a free kick. Made its way to Laporte. Laporte played it in Cello. One touch, round the corner, sets Bernardo off. Running towards. I think it's about 3 defenders with Haaland, and Bernardo's probably not as confident of whipping across in and finding Haaland without one of the defenders getting a head on it, because they've got some tall defenders at Brighton. And De Bruyne had held up his run. So Bernardo slid it across to De Bruyne. One touch to get it out of his feet, and then wrapped his right leg around it. Just inches, really. It's inches above the defender's leg as he went to get a block on it, and out of the reach of the goalkeeper. 3-1. And from that point, you're thinking game over. But Brighton never gave up. They had a couple of more chances. They pinned us in again for the last 5 minutes. They made a mistake or two. They gave the ball away and went to Cole Palmer, who had come on for Grealish. He really should have done better. Cole Palmer with that, but he slowed it up, and by the time anything started to materialise from it, Brighton had got everyone back. They continued fighting, and whether it be 3-1, whether it be 2-0, they still went fighting. They still went for believing that they could get something from the game, and it made for a fantastic match. Some good play from both teams, and I think if Brighton continue to play like that, they've got every chance of getting in Europe. I don't think they'll get into the top 4, but if they continue to play like that, like they did against us, I think they've got every chance of getting into Europe, whether that be the Europa League or the Europa Conference League, or another one that UEFA make up if United or Liverpool start ending a little bit lower. We already know Sky decide that they're going to create a top 11, and then it'll go back to the top 10 once Liverpool are in it. So, yeah, I thought it was a fantastic game, and well won. We move on to Dortmund next, away, Champions League. We avoid defeat. We in the group as group winners. Away goals have been scrapped now, so if we were to get beat by 1 goal, 1-0, 2-1, 3-2, whatever it may be, it'll go on goal difference. But if we avoid defeat, we win the group. Because no matter what happens in the last game, which I think will beat Sevilla anyway, but no matter what happens in the last game, if we avoid defeat, the head-to-head with Dortmund, we're better. So we'll win the group. Doesn't really mean much in the grand scheme of things, because a lot of groups have two good teams. You know, I mean, City and Dortmund in this one. But some teams that you're expecting to go through look like they're going out. Barcelona, Juventus, look like they're dropping into the Europa League. I don't really know the rest of the groups, I don't care. But the real advantage you get for winning the group is you have your second leg at home. But anyway, that's played on Tuesday night. And until then, until anything else happens beforehand, which I don't think it will, that makes me want to do a video. Adios, amigos.